Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all? Is actually a misquote. In Snow White, the evil queen actually says, magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all? We know mirrors to be really a mysterious invention. Always amazed at how the closer you get to them, you still see exactly what you're supposed to see. They look into your soul and yet could never reveal everything there is to reveal about any of us. Mirrors are symbols of vanity, and they are often the place we invite people to look. When they are finding fault with everything else, we invite people to start, as Michael Jackson once said, with the man in the mirror. As we come to the end of the book of Exodus, we find a remarkable mention of mirrors. And it really is remarkable because it is a singular moment. In Exodus 38, verse 8, as we're coming actually to the formal end of Parshat Vayakhel, that's in the second section of the triennial, so we'll officially read this verse next year. But it's just a wonderful verse because we have so much repetition in this part of the Torah, and yet right here we have something that is, in the true sense of the word, unique. Unique has become a word like literal that's used in places it probably isn't appropriate to use. But when something is actually unique, it is a one-off. And that is what we have in Exodus 38, verse 8. If you have your Torah book still nearby, you can take a look, but I'll read it for you. We are coming to the building of the altar, continuing to hear about all of the details and preparations that went into it, and it's really easy to get glassy-eyed when you read this section, with all due respect. But we are told, he made the laver, the washer, of copper, and its stand made out of copper, from the mirrors of the women who performed tasks at the entrance of the tent of meeting. I'll tell you again. They made the laver, the washstand, the wash basin, and its stand, both out of copper, and they made them from the mirrors of the women who performed tasks at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Dr. Lieber teaches that in the ancient world, mirrors were mostly handheld, highly polished discs of metal with copper or bronze, fitted with handles made of metal, wood, faience, or ivory. And Egypt was the center of their manufacture for the entire Near East. Because of the high cost of metal in Egypt, metal objects were not discarded, but were melted down and reused, as was done here. And insofar as these women who performed the tasks at the entrance of the tent of meeting, we are told nothing is known about this class of women, who are mentioned only one more time in the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 22. And there, in 1 Samuel, we are told that Eli, the priest Eli's sons, were behaving very immorally with these women that sat at the tent of meeting. What they were doing there, we're not sure. It is thought that either these women were temple or cult prostitutes, that's one thought, but one more prevailing theory is that they were kind of a class of nuns, that they were celibate women who devoted themselves entirely to temple service. Exactly who they were, we will never know, but these mirrors caught the attention of our great commentators. We can only know a little bit more about these mirrors through rabbinic legends called Midrash, where the rabbis over many, many centuries attempted to fill in what the Torah did not provide. Who were these women? Why were they congregating? And why were their mirrors used to construct the wash basin? Rashi, one of our most famous Torah commentators from medieval France, brings this following answer, and he's taking it also from the earlier teachings of the rabbis. He reminds us, the women of Israel were in possession of mirrors, which they used when they beautified themselves, and even these they did not withhold from donating to the tabernacle. But Moses rejected them, for Moses thought they were made to serve the evil inclination of vanity and sexual gratification. But God said to Moses, "Oh no, Moses, accept these mirrors, for these are dearer to me than all the rest, for it is with the mirrors that the women raised many congregations." This is the meaning of the women who congregate in the verse in Egypt. How were they congregating? The word is tsavo, which has the relationship to the word hosts or armies or mustering. How did they do this, and why does the Torah choose that particular word? Rashi goes on, when their husbands were tired from their labors, when they were slaves in Egypt, the women would go and bring them food and drink and feed them. And they would bring their mirrors with them. And each one would look at herself and her husband in the mirror and tempt her husband. She would say, "I am prettier than you are." And thereby they would arouse their husband's desire for them. And they would lay together, and the women would conceive and give birth. Why was this mirror ritual needed in ancient Egypt? Because our rabbis go on to tell us, the men had despaired of having children. They did not wish to have any more children to bring into slavery and despair. But we are told by our rabbis that it was the merit of the women who said we must keep faith, we must look forward, we must have children, because one of them will be the Redeemer. There is even a particular rabbinic story that says that Moses' family themselves were heard to be saying between Moses' mother and father, "We should not have any more children. We cannot bring them into this nightmarish existence that we find ourselves in." And the rabbis teach that it was Miriam who overheard her parents' conversation and begged for another little brother. She got her wish. And so these mirrors, though they seem to be the agent, according to Moses in his strictness at this moment, a vessel for vanity or even a kind of evil inclination, if you will. Of course, if we don't have any of that evil inclination, so to speak, we don't have any more children. So we are wrestling with this throughout Jewish history, that in order to channel those urges into the right direction, to keep procreating, to keep saying we are optimistic, we are hopeful despite what we see and read in the news and what is happening all around us, these mirrors were a symbol of not just looking within, but looking forward. And so very much we see here this strange moment of bringing the mirrors to build the wash basin. There is a favorite meditation of mine that I read every week, and I've shared it before, but not, I think, for a little bit. It is on page, I'm going to find it for you, in our Siddur. It's easy to miss because we have a lot of choices of meditations, but this one is my favorite. Where have you gone, meditation? It is on page, 163. We are told by this anonymous meditation, "May the charm of Shabbat help us to resist the inclination to squander time on vanities." It's in the heart of this beautiful meditation. May the charm of Shabbat help us to resist the inclination to squander time on vanities. I love that language because it is so easy to be caught up in our outward appearance, particularly at Sabbaths and holidays, and the appearance of our Passover table and our food and everything that is just barely skin deep. But Shabbat is looking within. Whether we actually hold up a mirror and check our hair, makeup, and clothes, what we're really supposed to do is hold up a mirror to look inside souls. We are to see what needs to be in it. And that's ostensibly the way the rabbis read this piece about the mirrors. The women looked inside, they appealed themselves to their husbands. They said, let us not give up hope. Let us continue to make families. Let us continue to celebrate life and be part of it in every possible way. The women that sat at the threshold of the temple, of the tabernacle, well, we're not sure what they were doing there exactly, but we know that to this day, their little mirrors were used as an essential part of creating the tabernacle and ultimately the temple. May their sacrifice and their optimism be an inspiration to us, even to this day and forward. Shabbat shalom, friends.